Welcome to a very, very special episode of The Alarmists. For the last 4 years, we have had an assault on the truth like no other time that I can remember. We have news stations masquerading as the reporter of news when really they're more like opinion makers, and we have lost a sense of what the truth is. There are no alternative facts, like Kellyanne Conway once said. There's only the truth and nothing but.
Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts?
Today I have an amazing array of members of the media and the press to talk about what happened in those years. Watching the news, the classic example is Walter Cronkite, who was a true reporter, because when you watched Walter Cronkite, he reported the news, he didn't opine on it.
And that's the way it is. Good night.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
When Kennedy died, he shed a tear. When we landed a man on the moon, he had a few choice words. But you trusted him because you knew you were getting the truth. Today, we're going to discuss what that truth should be, what we went through during those last 4 years, and what we want to see happen now. Let me bring everyone on. Stuttering John Melendez. We all know who John is. He's amazing. We've got Tim Sabean, the man behind Howard Stern. We've got Jenny Peters, an amazing journalist who has contributed to Variety. I've worked with her for over 30 years. Great Trip Wetzel, contributed to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Daily News. Dave Alaka, photographer, celebrity photographer extraordinaire, contributed regularly to the New York Post. We've got the amazing Steve Grillo. Can we fix Steve or no? I guess not. Oh, there. No.
There's no fixing, Steve. Don't even try.
Now, those short naps are great.
Well, first of all, I do a political podcast, the Stuttering John podcast. It airs on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at noon PST. Live on YouTube. But I will say this: the real issue is Donald Trump played by the same playbook as other dictators, Putin, as we see with Navalny and Hitler. The first thing that they do is tear apart the media and make people think the media is lying to them. If anything is reported that is disparaging to them, they say it's fake news. That is what Donald Trump did. A man who lied over 30,000 times convinced almost half of Americans to believe that what was being reported by legitimate news outlets was fake. That is a very big problem for any journalist, and it's a very big problem for America, in its entirety.
John, all right. So, John, I'm going to interrupt and say, how do we fix this?
Well,
how do we get the reader, the viewer, to regain our trust?
Well, first of all, now that the emperor who wears, I don't
hold back, John. I hate when you hold back.
Okay. Well, now that the dotard is out of office, I think that what's going to happen, yeah, you're going to have your Marjorie Taylor Greens who are going to, say that there are fake news out there. But the truth of the matter is, yeah, it was a hard time for journalists. And the reason why it was a hard time for journalists is because the commander-in-chief was telling them that lies were being reported about him. So by doing so, then the media is now on the defensive. As opposed to like Walter Cronkite, just delivering the news. Now, I watched David Muir on NBC, okay? On ABC. Now, he is doing straight news. He's reporting it.
But that's the problem. That's the problem. Unless it's a local network, they're not reporting the news. They have so many pundits. You know how exhausting it is for someone to find the fucking truth? They have to go through 6 stations, 8 newspapers, 12 magazines. It's who cares after a while.
All right, here's the problem, Jesse, and I understand that. And you have who's the tabloid? Is it the Post who's always pro-Trump or is it the Daily News?
No, it's the Post. The Daily
All right,
News
well
is
then you guys are just as guilty of this. So really, you guys keep on spewing bullshit. Excuse my French. And that's essentially what it is, and that's what Fox News does. They
But
keep on
how do we draw that line?
because when
where
it's
does the bullshit begin and where's the bullshit end and the truth begin, or the other way around? Because
well, I think if
the
you
storyline.
watch NPR, okay, or if you watch the BBC, I mean, you'll get the real news.
I agree about the BBC.
And
Absolutely.
and I think that now that the dotard is gone,
you have a nickname for me yet, John?
no, not yet.
All right, work on it, man. Work on it.
Crosby, Stills, and Jesse Nash. But anyway, I will say that now that he's gone, I think this heightened sensitivity towards the media is going to be lessened. Yeah, you're going to have your Proud Boys and Boogaloo Boys and your QAnon lunatics, but it's like the Meister Burger, and Santa Claus is coming to town. They're going to start to die off. So as they die off, people are going to start realizing that David Muir and his other newscasters are telling them the real news and not bullshit that you get on Fox. Listen, Fox News has been spewing fake news since day one. Rupert Murdoch, has done that. He started that a long time ago. If you guys want to watch a great documentary, you should watch Outfoxed.
I'm amazed. I mean, guys, like Tim, I know that you have more, I guess, right-wing leanings. Dave, Ilaka, you also do. You're going to let him keep talking? You're not going to...
Hey, go ahead and dispute me. I'll debate you on this. Listen, I don't think you want to go to war with me on this because I'm too smart for you. Because I know what happens.
Guys, are you intimidated enough? Are you going to stay silent?
If you have your president saying that everything is fake, meanwhile he lies over 30,000 times, there's only one person that's telling you the fake news, and it ain't the media. Donald Trump is a liar.
How come they have not caught him and they've been trying to catch him do something?
Oh, give it time. Give it time.
That's what I'm saying. For 4.5 years.
Give it time.
They caught him and they've got him from everything from partying in the back to storming the Capitol.
Hey, Dave, look how long it took him to freaking take John Gotti down. Okay? How many years did it take him to do that?
A long time.
Yeah, a long time. Well, guess what? Donald Trump has been a money launderer. He is.
Oh, absolutely.
His father Fred has been in
to add to this. Wait a second.
I don't disagree with you at all, John. I think you're 100% right.
All right, so listen to this. Listen to this.
I'm a Republican, but I'm not for Trump. Okay, Trump does not speak right. He speaks incorrect. He's too boisterous. He's too bash. He's a megalomaniac. All the rest of it. But all Republicans are now treated like they're, loving Trump, which is not true. And
it isn't true. Hey, Dave, Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, a lot of them, Susan Collins, a lot of them have spoken out against the insurrection.
Well, I want to ask a question.
Hold on a second, Jesse. Don't interrupt me. I don't care if it's your show. Even Mitch McConnell said that Donald Trump was responsible for the insurrection. Okay.
Why won't the Republican Party take him out when they have the opportunity to? I want to understand what's going on here.
Why are they so scared of him? Is my question.
Well, Trip, do you have Trip? Do you have I know that you were expressing to me before about you're a Republican first, but when you see something like this happen, what do you think?
Well, I'm in a little bit of a unique position. I wouldn't say I'm a Republican first because I my family is very conservative. I've sort of lent a little bit more conservative, but I'm not totally conservative. I'm more middle of the road, and I think there are flaws in both parties. But I think that the way that Trump, acted was atrocious, period. And, his handling of COVID, among many other things, was just an atrocity. And
why is there a double standard, though? The thing that bothers me is there's a double standard. They'll publicly lynch Liz Cheney, but then they won't,
I
follow
want
up.
to say, I just want to say to Trip, thank you, because I agree with you. Okay, now the other thing I have to say to you, Jesse, is we've never had a president that called the media like all lies ever before.
Right.
Hey,
I mean,
Especially
so
one who
if
was
you're
lying at the time.
the whole purpose of this show, I thought, was to say how was it to report under this administration.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, and that's what makes it unique, because we never had a man who was elected to office, the highest office in the land, the most powerful man in the world, start to denounce reporters and have people start saying kill CNN and NBC. This guy likes to incite people against the media,
Okay,
and that's
so
the problem.
now
And I feel bad for my journalistic
all right, so
colleagues.
we've established that. So now, Tim, I'll give you a sane question to answer. How do we fix it? How do we make it better? How do we remove the anger and replace it with trust?
I think that we elect Stuttering John to office, and from there, no,
You should, bro. You're outspoken enough, John. You could do it.
Oh yes, who knows? It might be in my future. I mean, listen, look. I do shows every day exposing the dotard known as Donald Trump, and keep in mind, guys, and I know that Trip and Dave over there, Jenny, I haven't heard from you yet, but
Jenny's very smart. She's observing all of you.
Yes, I know.
I can't get an edgewise with you boys.
Jesse,
No, you're gonna get your moment.
Jesse, ladies first. She should have been the first to speak, but it's okay.
No, you started talking, John.
Yeah,
Just to remind you,
No, I understand that, but look.
Since we're talking about Jenny,
Yes.
listen to us talk. And boy, for a bunch of guys, we really can fucking talk a lot.
Shocking.
What are you gaining from all this, and what do you want to add to the conversation?
Well, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I've always been a liberal, born and raised a liberal.
Good for you, Jenny.
Believe in things like standing up for the rights of those whose rights are being trampled. And at this time, in the last 4 years, if you believed in that and you kept your mouth shut, you were as complicit to Donald Trump as anybody who was on his side. I think back to the 80s when the AIDS epidemic was going strong and people who were straight kept their mouths shut and didn't weigh in and didn't try to make a difference. And back then, the term was silence equals death. And I believe that these 4 years in particular have separated the men from the boys and the women from the girls. And those of us who did not believe in all of the things that, from the Muslim bans and the Muslim demonizing in America to the children in cages to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you kept your mouth shut, particularly as a journalist, you're one of them.
I see you getting very emotional, and
Yep.
I want to know where this is coming from. Would you mind sharing a little bit?
Well, I just don't believe that people like McCarthy, for example, at this very moment, says one thing out of one side of his mouth and then says something else out of the other side of his mouth in order to tell lies, to placate his base, which is a base of people that clearly believe that, Democrats are killing babies and drinking their blood. Wow. I mean, it's insane.
Wow.
Well, you know what? If I could add to that, because I agree with Jenny, and herein lies the problem. We have a woman right now in Congress known as Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a lunatic. Okay. Yep. Here's a woman. Okay. Now I'm a father of 3 children. Okay. Here's a woman that called the Sandy Hook shootings and Parkland a hoax, which is what Alex Jones, an alleged journalist, was reporting. Now, I have children. These kids were 5, 6 years old, a week away from Santa Claus coming, and were murdered. And you now have a congresswoman who's out there who
Mhm.
believes QAnon
Yep.
and is reporting nonsense and telling people that both Sandy Hook and Parkland were fake, that never happened, and even goes a step further and says that the shootings in Vegas was a Democratic plot to take out Trump supporters. Now, we all know, even the Republicans in this room, this is a bunch of malarkey.
Yep.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
no.
but see, here is the problem now that we have, Jesse, because getting back to your topic on this show, there are a certain amount of people that believe this nonsense. And that delegitimizes real networks that report the real news. Like
This is the whole argument. How do we now? We can sit there and say what happened and this happened and establish what's really going on, but how do we fix this? How do we move forward?
How do we fix it as press, or how does the whole thing fix? Because the whole thing will never be fixed.
You got to start somewhere, and since we're in the media,
well, the whole thing will never be fixed until there's more than two parties. Sorry, that's a fact. Nothing will ever get better without
Dave,
two parties.
Dave.
Yes.
Okay. Now I have to call you on this one.
Yes.
Because we've never had this problem before, and we've had two parties for a long time.
Correct.
This problem happened because of one person.
Oh, agreed.
Donald
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I told you in the beginning.
Yeah, I know. So why now say that we can't have it if we only have two parties?
Well,
but it wasn't one person. It was one person speaking to a whole segment of our society who want to believe this kind of shit. And therein lies the problem.
I agree, Jenny. But if we had a president that didn't do this, we wouldn't have these people who are storming the Capitol. Okay,
well, I agree with you. Yeah.
All right. So now look. Now we see all these horrible things that have happened. We have to focus on positive things. So how do we do that? We have to have. I mean, all right. First of all, you gotta cite the things that you disapprove of. You gotta make points so that everybody remembers that this shit never happens again. But how do we take it back? We need ideas. We need a think tank.
Well, time will heal everything in time. Hopefully, I think time is one thing we need. Okay, on both ends.
And maybe
and one of the best things of all of it, honestly, for me, is like I said to you, I'm a Republican, more like Tripp, but I am so sick of hearing the name Trump. I mean, you can't go out for the last 4 effing years and not hear that name, radio, newspaper.
I concur.
It is. I am so happy, but they're going to bring it back again, which is what I don't understand. Yes, they're going to put it back on trial. Again, it's been a week and a half where I really haven't heard as much Trump. It's Trump. For the last 4 years, I'm sick and tired of it. He's worse than the Kardashians, for Christ's sake.
That's because the adults are back in the house.
Yep.
That's why.
Well,
and Joe Biden is not going to attack the media, is not going to call them fake news. We already see that from Jen Psaki as opposed to Kayleigh McAdopey. Now we actually have somebody who's going to take questions from both sides, not say fake news, not disparage the press. See, that's the difference when you have mature, compassionate, empathetic people that are running the show.
And not megalomaniacs.
Yeah, and so now, Jesse, to answer your question, how are we fixing it? We are. We are, because
but there are 74 million people who don't agree with you, John.
Yeah, but guess what? Those 74 million people are going to change, and that it already is.
Right.
That 70 million is going to be down to 30 million, because as soon as Trump is gone, it's going to start to just go away.
Right.
So let me ask you a question, because it needs to be answered. I mean, the Republicans have a chance to get rid of him. If they really want to make change, the best way to make change is to get rid of him. And yet they won't take it. They won't take it.
He's not
They
going.
could easily vote him out. They could easily impeach him and convict him, and then he can't run again. But why won't they take it? It's
Only if it's
I'll
only
tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because they are.
You know why.
They still think they are. They still think they have 74,000 people that are going to
million.
Keep in mind, guys. I know we're all smart people. Keep in mind, 74 million people are not all Trump lovers, okay? Stop even trying to perpetrate that delusion, because it is not true. Half of those people at least are just staunch conservative GOP believers. It doesn't matter who is the guy. It could be a Romney.
I agree with this. I agree with what you're saying.
So it's not all 74 million people are not just about Trump. Most of those people are about, they always
Well,
vote.
obviously, half those people are not happy. And for them to come back and to see a different point of view, how do we make them happy? What do we know? We don't know what the answer to that is.
You're never going to make everybody happy.
Stop giving him press.
I don't expect everybody to be happy. I mean,
Stop giving this guy press. He loves it.
What do you think, Jenny?
Well, I think a lot of people turned on January 6th. There were a lot of Republicans who had the exact same reaction that the Democrats had to people freaking breaking windows and storming into Congress. They were appalled. They were freaked out. No one could believe it. And I think that alone shifted some people's thinking towards what exactly they had voted for and what they were buying into. I don't think they really believed that the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys were as extreme as they are. And I also think that they actually really believed in this Antifa bullshit, which, of course, those of us who are of an age know that our parents fought against in World War II. They were anti-fascist as well. And if you're not anti-fascist, you're pro-fascist. And they discovered that none of that was real. And even the Proud Boys discovered that everything that the lunatics like Lynn Wood were promising them was going to happen didn't happen. And now every day that goes by that Donald Trump doesn't take over the national broadcast, emergency broadcast system and, all of the other things, the electricity and everything, and he doesn't take over the country, they're even reconsidering the positions they've held for the last 4 years or even more. I don't think it stops them from being racist or sexist or, anti-Jew, Muslim, anybody who isn't a faux Christian, which we all sort of understand now that many of the Christians in America are sort of fake Christians because they only believe in Christianity on the terms that everybody else should be persecuted. So I think things are already changing, believe it or not. Towards the media, I'm not so sure.
Jesse, let me just say, Jenny, thank you. I've agreed with everything you said, and it's all spot on. And let me just add this: Canada has now classified the Proud Boys as a terrorist organization. Okay, when will we? When will we? And the other question, the only thing I'm going to say to you, Jesse, is for months on my program, have been asking for Twitter to ban Donald Trump. Why? Because he's inciting violence by calling this election a fraud. And you know what? It took an insurrection to finally have them do that. Now, I'm not saying I'm some genius here, but I'm saying Donald Trump his voice should have been taken away from him a long freaking time ago.
And to go back to Jenny, I totally agree with what you said about them being one group of people who did storm the Capitol. Not all Republicans were for it. They didn't want to.
No, a lot were appalled.
And the people who did storm it, that wasn't about Republican or Democrat. They just went in and ripped the whole thing apart. Okay?
Now,
they were followers of the man who put a lot of Republicans into, a bad place.
And Dave,
she could think us all. We're all not assholes. We might have different viewpoints, but
there you go, Dave.
Put it all in there.
Dave, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And don't forget these people wanted to hang Mike Pence.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So
ridiculous. Listen, let me tell you quickly. I got a son who just got out of college, political science, political everything. He actually is so confused now because he's a Republican and signed, and he's like, I don't know what to do now because my life, this man has pretty much destroyed a Republican for the next 50 years. What am I going to do in life? So this is a 22-year-old man who's just starting out, and Trump has already tarnished his beliefs and his name.
No, you mentioned the word beliefs. You know, every night we watch the news. I'm going to bring on my next guest, and he's a very interesting man. He's a hypnotherapist, a hypnotist, and he studies human behavior. And I want him to come on because he has an interesting take on things, and I think he could add a different side to the conversation we haven't talked about. I want to introduce Jeffrey Rose. Noah, bring Jeffrey on. Jeffrey, how are you, man?
Doing great. I love listening to everyone. I'd like to chime in myself, and as much as I have my negative feelings toward Donald Trump, I'd rather just talk about the media in general, because there's always a confirmation bias for the listenership there, and news wants to be provocative. So they're going to suck
Jeffrey,
people in.
You were talking earlier to me on the phone about how we get subliminal messaging when we watch the news. How it's done on purpose to influence us, our thought patterns, what we like to eat, what we like to watch. Can you go into that a little bit and explain it to everybody, to the viewers and to our guests, exactly like you told it to me?
Okay, so one example of subliminal is what you see when you go to look at your Fox app on your phone. And if you look closely, it says America is watching, okay? America is watching. But behind that, kind of been faded out, it'll say things like America is engaging, America's posting, America is sharing. So this is a great way for Fox News to get their message out, and then to have all the viewers then send it out on their social media to send it out, okay? So that's just one thing that Fox does. They also have the American flag waving in the background, which is very, very hypnotic. CNN will have on their right side of the screen a nonstop tally of how many pandemic cases we have, how many people are dying, or how many vaccines. And it's kind of like a slot machine or a video game where you just get so intrigued you can't stop watching it. And we don't need to do that. We just want to get the news. But unfortunately,
what's the motive? What's the motive? What is the motive, Jeff? I mean,
more eyes on
accomplish?
It's a business. It's more eyes on the television. It's more viewers. It's pure business. So they're just going to keep feeding the lowest common denominator information to people that already have that confirmation bias, and they're just going to keep listening to that, and they're not going to listen to anything else. I go out of my way to listen to Fox, even though I'm left center. I'll listen to CNN. I watch CNN. I watch MSNBC. But I'm also going to watch Fox News because I need to hear how the news is presented in a different way and where that bias is, even though I'm not comfortable with it. And we were talking about Donald Trump before. I actually went to his last rally in Miami the Sunday night at midnight before the election. Not like I'm a fan of Donald Trump's. I'm disgusted by everything he is. I know he's a con artist. He's a liar, of course. But I wanted to be present because I could feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And I felt it was like a really scary thing. The energy in that room, or I should say outdoors, was like 8,000 people there, being spoon-fed and spewed all this vitriol, all this lies nonstop. He's talking to a foreign audience saying that, Biden as a president is going to make it like Cuba over here. And the Cubans in that audience are going to listen to that and say, well, we got to vote for Trump. And 2/3 of the Cuban Americans in Florida did. And that's why Trump won in Florida. So you're just going to keep.
So you're studying. So you're doing this, and you're studying human behavior here. You're throwing yourself in almost like a petri dish to see what happens. What are you discovering about human behavior in all these different situations you've talked about? I mean, why are we behaving the way we're behaving?
Because people, in this case with Donald Trump, they like a cult leader. Okay, so he'll feed off his fans, that base. And they feed off Donald Trump. He's very provocative. He says interesting things. He's a fascinating guy.
Well, what does it tell us about what's going on in our society? Why is that segment of the audience being so captivated by that? When a lot of us look at it and say, this is so far from the truth, yet they're buying in. You could even look back to World War II and the rise of the Third Reich, and it's a similar type of situation happened. There was a breakdown in society. The country was starving, and everybody believed what the man said. Are we going through something that can be, I want to understand this.
Well, because we're vulnerable, and you could play to fear. Hitler did that, Mussolini did that, Stalin did that, and you could pit people against each other. And Trump was masterful doing that, and I think Fox News was complicit in that. Sorry, just to dig on that, just Fox. Yes, there's a bias there. There's a bias on CNN, and I think instead of just blaming the media, we need to listen to this. We need to, if you're on the conservative side and you're Republican, listen to CNN and CNBC. If you happen to be a liberal, watch Fox sometimes, because you need to hear that what we're being fed all the time is not just the news.
Both sides.
Now you got Jeffrey. You've heard Jeffrey speak. I want to hear what my guests have to ask you, or they want to add to it, or if they want to comment on it. Why don't we start with Jenny?
This kind of subliminal advertising has been going on since the 60s. Put up a picture of Coca-Cola while people are watching a movie at the drive-in so quickly that they don't even know it's been in one of the 24 frames per second, but they suddenly want to go to the concession stand and buy a Coke. So I think this stuff has been going on in the news media and everywhere else for a long time. But you seem to be saying it's only just really coalesced. Am I wrong? Or has it really been going on a long time?
I personally think it's going on a long time.
Me too.
Well, it has been going on a long time. We all know that. I
think this just brought it to the head. This guy.
I'm a film major. I mean, in films as far back as Hitchcock, I mean, they always are doing subliminal stuff. I mean, that's just.
But does it actually change the way you think? Should it actually sway your vote? I've never watched anything on television and walked out of there going, well, I'm a different man now. I think I'm going to have to do it.
Not consciously.
Right.
No.
I'm going to go eat popcorn. If I see in a movie popcorn, I'm going to go get popcorn. Eventually, I'm not going to think about it. It's going to happen.
Dude, every time I watch Goodfellas and they cut that freaking garlic with the razor blade, I want to go down and make pasta. Come on.
Perfect analogy.
I'm never coming over to eat at your house. Fuck that. No way.
But I will say, the only thing I'm talking to the hypnotist is keep in mind that Jeff Zucker, Donald Trump's buddy, the guy that greenlit The Apprentice, and I know Jeff Zucker because he used to work at NBC. He was the head of NBC. Jeff Zucker is in bed with Donald Trump, and he has CNN report on Donald Trump for the simple reason it keeps Donald Trump's name out there, and like we all know, like the hypnotist has said, to make money. Because Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, it makes money when people talk about him.
And he's running CNN. And CNN, he's got people who want to see that news.
Yes.
Just like Fox has those people who want to see the other side. And I can tell you something that I know, and I got to be very vague on this. But one of the papers throughout the country had to bring in, and they're a conservative paper, they had to bring in some of an old editor back because they didn't know how to deal with such the way Trump talked so horrendously about things and brought up subjects that he had no knowledge on, because they needed to gear towards their people who read the paper in that mindset. But the things that he was saying were so outlandish and stupid at the time, they couldn't report exactly that, or they would look completely like assholes. And after that, then, Donald's going to be gone anyway in 4 to 8 years. At that point, we're going to still have to maintain what we're doing. So
all right, guys, I'm going to abruptly stop this segment. We're going to take a break, and then we have other people that have to come on.
All right, Jesse, thanks for having me.
No, thank you, John, man. You were great. And Dave also.
Thank you.
Thank
you all, guys. I hope I was respectful.
Again, We're back for part 2 of The Alarmists. We're talking about Let Freedom Ring is the theme of this show, and we're talking about what it was like to be a member of the press, to be in the media the last 4 years, and how we want to see it get better. In the old days, like I talked about earlier, you had a true reporter like Walter Cronkite who only reported the news and did not opine on it. When Walter Cronkite said that's the way it was, you knew that's the way it was. We're going to bring this conversation on how we can make things better, make it better to be a member of the press and the media. We've got some great guests. Bring me on, Noah. Let's get this show rolling. Let me introduce Peter Veenhoven, who Peter and I have known each other for almost 30 years. We have worked together in the syndication of news, the dissemination, right, Peter, of news around the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that this is a very important thing to say, because what we got to do, I don't think we'd have the freedom to do it like we did back then. What are you seeing as a person who lives in the EU, lives in Amsterdam? What are you seeing in America? How are they looking at us? What happened the last 4 years? And what are they saying about the way we present ourselves? Because we've always touted ourselves as the country that presents liberty, freedom. So what's your take on all of this?
Well, I think that's pretty much still the same. But when it comes to the news and all things going on in the United States the past 4 years with Trump leading the country, the United States have become more of a source of entertainment to Europe than anything else, I think, because it's been wild. It's been a crazy ride with Donald Trump.
Has it diminished Europeans' views of America and how they see us?
Absolutely, and in more than one way, because you
explain
see
that.
When Trump came in office, that's how we look at it. He immediately changed a lot of things. He left the Paris Agreement. He got into fights with all kinds of organizations, international organizations, and now 4 years later, Biden is trying to restore all these things. But the reliability
to rejoin the club?
Absolutely. But the reliability of the United States as a partner has been damaged, I think. And this is not easily to be undone by maybe policies by Biden that are, trustworthy in itself.
That's a key word you just mentioned, trust.
Yeah,
trust now. Do you trust us?
Absolutely. And 3 or 4 years from now, we could be back to United States leaving all these organizations all over again. So the trustworthiness of the United States as a partner to Europe has been, damaged, I think, in a serious way. So yeah, that's troublesome. As far as media goes, that's a whole different ballgame. I guess there's just many more voices than before. Before there were, like you said, there was Walter Cronkite, and now there's like a million Walter Cronkites, and everybody's got his own opinion and his own news and his own truth. And where there's less common ground in the United States, like maybe before, common threats are increasingly difficult to deal with, I think. And
I want to bring on Bill Box because Bill has an amazing solution. You have all these different points of view. And like you said, Peter, we're a fractured society. And when we remember, Bill, when we were talking, you had this idea about how, there were 74 million people that voted for Trump. And he had a brilliant idea how to approach them to get us more unified, get us understanding how we're all feeling. Bill, you want to sort of present your theme, because I think it was very interesting and it stayed with me, and I would love you to share it right now.
Well, if I could work with the government, what I would want to do would be to put together teams of people, teams with security, to go out into the so-called most red state areas, the counties that voted most heavily for Trump, and I want to find out why. There's a lot of fandom with Trump, just like there was with Morton Downey Jr. As I was executive producer of that show. But somewhere in there, in the lives of those people, in the lives of the people who are essentially clinging to conspiracy theories because it gives them something to believe in. Something's wrong. Something is wrong in their lives. Now, whether it's the fact that the middle class has shrunken down to, a shadow or percentage of what it was, there are a lot of different reasons. But I would send out teams of people to gather information, to videotape and record these things. What are you upset about? What do you need? Why did you vote for Trump? To really come to an understanding and then take that information, grind it through computers, and do what you need to do, the leadership of the country, to solve those problems. That's what I would do if I had a position in government. If they're watching now, I'm available, I will do it. But I'm talking about sending out hundreds and hundreds of people on listening tours with armed guards,
Trip, what do you think about that? Because I know you're kind of more moderate. I mean, do you think that it would actually make a difference?
You mean, hold on. You mean having information would make a difference? Is that what you think?
No, I'm asking the question. Information, the truth is always a good thing, you know?
Look at your question.
No, I was asking Trip. Don't throw me into this political fire. I'm asking Trip what he thinks about it.
It's hard to say because so many of these, the people with the diehard Trump supporters, as you said, were such diehard Trump supporters that I think it's hard to dissuade them either way. So
I'm not talking about dissuading them at all. I'm talking about finding out why.
Well, I think the answer is simple because they're disenchanted. I mean, that's the whole reason that he won.
Oh yes, what are they disenchanted about? Why?
Well, they're disenchanted with the way the power base in Washington. I mean, that's quote unquote the liberal elite in New York and Boston and Los Angeles. They're.
Yeah. I think they're disenchanted with their lives. I'm not saying all of them, but a percentage of people are really disenchanted with their lives.
Well, they are disenchanted with their lives, but I mean, Trump. These people are not idiots that he tapped into at all. They're different people from us. They may not be as educated as we are, but they're people who are scared for their future. I mean, they're today's Archie Bunker. That's the best analogy I can offer.
And Peter, listening to these conversations, because you see it very differently, I think, than do you see it like the way they're saying it? I mean,
well. When I listen to Bill when he says they're disenchanted with, and he wonders with what, I think, or my point of view is that there's a lot of American people that are disenchanted with government in general.
But isn't that the world? Isn't that like Europe was constantly disenchanted about something?
Yeah, but the thing with that is that basically. I think deep down they're disenchanted with the fact that there's not enough government because nobody's taking care of anything, and certainly not of these people. They're not helping them, so they blame government. And so if someone stands up like Trump and says, let's drain the swamp or whatever, they believe that someone is going to save them. But the opposite is true, of course. I mean, he's not saving them at all. He's taking more government away from them, and he's making government smaller. So there's less education, there's less social security, there's less infrastructure. These people are basically fucked, if I can say that on your show.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
All right. So yeah, I think that is definitely. A big problem in the U.S. right now is that there's a huge distrust of government, and it's very important that Parliament, Congress, politicians in general win back confidence with the people, and just and point out to them that there's civil servants right there to help them instead of frustrating their lives.
Well, now I'm going to bring on an attorney who has handled very high-profile clients against the New York Yankees and celebrities, and this man really knows about one thing very important. It's called the truth. And he's going to add to the conversation about the legality of not telling the truth and what, how do we look at it differently now? Because, you just can't, all these years we always thought you just can't say whatever the hell you want and it not be the truth. It has to be founded in something. And Robert is going to add a legal sense to this whole story. Let me bring on Robert Hantman. Come on.
Okay, nice to meet everybody.
Hi there.
So Robert, jump right in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in a court of law or in a deposition, the truth basically is what makes the most sense to people, and you think people are going to say what's accurate to the best of their ability, but they're under oath at least. Unfortunately, the politicians, people who give speeches, they're not under any oath, and they just say whatever bullshit they want. And unfortunately, at least in the court of law, even though it's not perfect, at least judges look at what the facts are, what the inferences are from the facts. But apparently, with Twitter, with Facebook, people can just, it's a stream of consciousness, which is unsupported by any details. And the more people believe the commentary without looking at the facts, the worse off it is for everybody. We're living in an alternative reality, which is really, really bad.
Well, as a lawyer, doesn't that drive you crazy? Because you come from a position of the truth. So how do you navigate these crazy waters?
Well, I think not just as a lawyer, but as a human being, it drives me crazy because how you can have tens of millions of people believe something just because somebody says this is true is absurd. And then frankly, and I'm not going to say whether it's the left or the right, but Fox News, they're propagandists. They're not newspaper people. They're not journalists. They're just giving their opinion. It's like Cuomo and Don Lemon. It's like constant bullshit between the two, and no one's really looking at the facts. They're giving opinion and perception. So yeah, it drives me crazy.
And on the right, you could say Laura Ingraham and Rush Limbaugh. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean it's just propaganda, and they don't even say what their facts are based upon. At least in the court of law.
So, all right. So, that's talking about the facts, not alternative facts, Robert, but the facts, the truth. How do we use the law, the legalities of all this, to stop what happened from happening again? To have an assault on the truth, where we don't know with what anyone's saying whether it's real or not. How do we take that back? And if we have to go legal, how do we do that?
Okay. Well, that's very simple. I have a case right now in Los Angeles. And it's been widely reported. There's a porno star who went on Twitter, but not just going on Twitter. She actually did a video on Twitter where she accused a well-known director in the porn industry of assaulting her twice. And what we did is we sued her. We sued her for defamation. And then we're ultimately going to sue the periodicals who also repeated what she said. Because while on Twitter, Facebook, you really can't sue those entities, at least at the present time. You can still sue them if they republish something without actually trying to vet the source and look at the reliability. So if somebody says something which is total bullshit, you do have the right to sue them for defamation.
So, Robert, as a summation, is the truth your best defense?
Well, if you can prove that it's true.
Right. That's a good answer.
Look, I told the porn star, I said, look, because she was her own lawyer for a period of time. I said, look, I wasn't there. I don't know who did what to whom, and this is very important. I said, nobody may know what the real truth is, but a jury or a judge is going to look at what you say or what you did, and they're going to try to draw what inferences from your behavior. So if you're with this guy and you say he assaulted you, but your makeup wasn't messed up, if right after the event you went and you posed on social media, the judge, most people will not believe that you were assaulted. If 3 weeks later you had a ride with this person, he gave you a ride in his car voluntarily, they're not going to believe that you really were assaulted the first time if you called the guy up to give you a ride. So to try to get the truth, you look at the inferences and what you could derive from them.
Okay, I like that. we're going to be drawing to the close now. So I want to get everybody to say what they would like to see change in the next 4 years in terms of just the media, what they see on TV, and also just in general life. Because if we are as disenchanted as those 74 million voters who did not vote for Biden supposedly feel, how do we make it better? Let's start since we have our first. Let's talk to Bill. Bill, you have very pragmatic, very grounded views. I want to hear how you feel we can improve upon this.
Me?
You.
Now, I'll go back to what I was saying of understanding why people are acting the way they are. These days, I'm really into recognizing that there's really an alternate reality that exists in many people's minds. A recent poll indicated that 70% of Republicans believe that Trump really was not elected. I don't mean that as a political statement.
But what do you want to see, like as a parting comment? What do you want to see? If you could pick one thing that you want to see,
right? I read it in the paper this morning. Okay, if President Biden wants to bring extremists and conspiracy theorists back to reality, he can start by making that reality worth coming back to. That's my point.
That's interesting. That's an interesting topic.
That's it.
All right, very good. I like that. Give them a reason. Give them a reason. Jeffrey Rose, what's your final comment?
Well, to further with what Bill was saying, when we're dealing with people that are conspiracists, people that are prone to conspiracy theories, of course, they're vulnerable, they're weak, and they're trying to find some kind of simplicity to explain things that they don't understand. Now, what we have to do is to think, we have to really go through a process, thinking with our strong thought process of being critical, thinking about everything that comes our way and not just accept it. Otherwise, we're just going to succumb to all this stuff. What happens also with say, all the social media right now, people could get very upset about mainstream media, and you could poke holes at it and say how horrible it is because they're always left-leaning or they're always right-leaning. But when you're watching, you're looking at your feed nonstop on Facebook, what you're seeing is my stream media. You're seeing all the stuff that you like because the algorithm is going to keep showing you all the things that things that you posted or that your friends chimed in and made comments. So it's going to keep feeding the same narrative over and over and over again, and you're never going to listen to anything else on the other side. And so I think as individuals, and I think that great movie, Social Dilemma, touches on all that. I think everyone needs to see Social Dilemma first, so we can see about how we're getting fed this news and how we're getting fed this narrative that supports our confirmation biases.
All right. Trip, what's your take on it? I don't hear you, Trip. You have no audio. You there? Trip?
Hey, Trip, hit your mute button.
What happened to poor Trip?
Trip, can you hit your mute button? You muted yourself. It's like a little microphone.
Trip, you muted yourself. Hit your mute button.
I can't unmute. It says he muted himself.
There you go. I'm right here. I'm sorry about that. I just hit the wrong.
All right. So what's
sorry about that?
Let's get right into it. So, what are your parting words? What do you want to see?
I think we're a very, very, very divided country, and I think we have to just keep doing what we can every day. And I think Joe Biden, we have to give him a chance, and I think he's off to a great start. With what he's trying to do to bring people back together as quickly as he can. But, you're not going to bring everybody together. And there are people who are so conservative that they will believe anything, And I think, so I don't know. It's a tough one. But I think what most of us can do, most rational people can do, is support Biden as much as we can. Even if we don't agree with everything Biden is doing, and I don't agree with everything Biden is doing. I think he's maybe doing some things too quickly, and I'm very concerned that we're, both that the Republicans and have got too much power, because I don't think that's a healthy thing either. But Donald Trump, that was his fault. to a large degree. The fact that they.
So you want to sum it up just in a few sentences. What do you want to see get better, Trip?
I just want to see the way we get along better. I want to see, obviously COVID get better. I want to see, our faith in things to get better in general.
Okay. Dave Alaka, what do you want to see get better? What do you want to see improve in these next 4 years in the way things are done by the media, the press, and our daily lives?
Basically, the real thing I want to say about the media is that I'm very happy I won't have to hear Donald Trump 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for too much longer. Secondly, I definitely agree with Trip that I've been on both of these sessions with you that, you know what, as a true Republican that I am, let's give the guy a chance. Let's see what Biden can do. I mean, he needs a chance. He's been there for 2 weeks. Let's see. He's left with a big, big bag of shit, though. I sure wouldn't want to be him. My God.
All right.
Anyway, thank you.
All right. No, I like your point of view, Dave. Don't hold back.
Really?
I want to get Robert Hantman's final comments. What do you would like to see change and get better?
Well, first of all, Republicans or Democrats who are bold enough to speak the truth and not bullshit their followers for political and personal gain. I think that's a must, because you can't have politicians who knowingly lie just for their own personal, profit. That's the first step. And I think if people really just try to tell the truth and not propagandize and just have reasonable conversations, knowing that if we're going to remain a country, we have to work together or we're fucked. It's really pretty simple.
Yep, I agree with you, man. That's very well spoken. And to end the show, I want to bring Peter Veenhoven back on, because you're the man from Europe watching us. What do you think we need to do to make this better?
Well, what I think would be very important right now is that there's going to be more transparency in the media, in news reporting, more transparency, and also more verifiability, so that you can see how the news came together and how people arrive at facts. And I agree with what Jeffrey said. Everybody should watch this movie, The Social Dilemma, and I think it should be obligatory in school to watch it. Young people should be educated in how they watch the news and how they take all the information in, and what's true and what's not true. And it's very important that people learn to see if the information they get can be verified. If it cannot be verified, it's not true. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that's very important, and that's something that is not part of everyday news these days. Today, everything's talking heads. Everybody's got an opinion, and that's the most important thing, apparently. But it should be real news reporting, and people should know what the facts are, and then they can have an opinion. And then everybody can have an opinion. That would be fine. So that's what I would like to see.
What a great group. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you all for appearing on the show today. Bill Boggs, Trip Wetzel, Peter Veenhoven, all the way from the Netherlands, Jeffrey Rose from upstate, Robert Hantman, Dave Alaka from Jersey. Here we go. The Alarmists. I hope this discussion really helped to spur people to think about what's going on in this country and the world. I hope they take away something positive. Let freedom ring. We need to get back to what's real. We need to get back to the truth. Nothing but. Thank you.
One last word, Jesse. Run for office. Run for mayor of New York. Run for
I don't
office.
think so. I wouldn't want that job. No way. No way. All right, guys.
See you later,
Thank you for coming on.
Bye-bye.
Bye, man. Bye.